Let me tell you something that may sting a little. No one is your real friend. I know that sounds harsh, but the sooner you accept this truth, the freer you become. Most people walk around with this illusion that others owe them loyalty, love, or commitment simply because they gave it. But life doesn't work that way. Human beings are driven by self-interest. People will stay with you as long as it benefits them, socially, emotionally, financially, or even for convenience. Think back. How many times have you expected loyalty from someone only to be disappointed? A friend who disappeared when you needed them most, a partner who swore they'd always stay but didn't, a colleague who threw you under the bus to save themselves. It happens because people are wired to survive first. And yet, we keep setting ourselves up for pain. Why? Because we expect others to live by rules we created in our own minds. We expect them to sacrifice for us, to prioritize us, to love us unconditionally. That expectation is what breaks you, not their behavior. So here's the reality check. Stop expecting loyalty. Loyalty is not guaranteed. It's not permanent. And it's not something you can demand. If someone chooses to be loyal, appreciate it, but don't depend on it. Don't build your self-worth around it. The strongest people you know, the ones who thrive no matter what, aren't the ones with the most friends. They're the ones who learned to stand alone. They understand that solitude isn't weakness, it's power. When you stop depending on others to hold you up, you realize just how unbreakable you really are. So don't ask, who's truly loyal to me? Instead ask, am I loyal to myself? Am I committed to my own growth, my own mission, my own integrity? Because that's the only loyalty you can truly control. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing people to prove their loyalty, you'll attract stronger relationships. Why? Because you're no longer desperate for them. You're whole on your own. So let me leave you with this. Expect nothing. Build yourself. Be your own friend first. That way, when people walk away, and some will, you'll still be standing, because at the end of the day, loyalty isn't about them. It's about you. Stop expecting loyalty. People act out of self-interest. This is one of the most difficult truths to accept, because our whole lives we are conditioned to believe that friendship, love, and loyalty are constants. We grow up with movies, stories, and cultural ideals that glorify the idea of someone being ride or die. Someone who will never abandon you, someone who will always show up no matter what. But real life doesn't work that way. Real life is messy, unpredictable, and filled with human beings who make choices based on what benefits them the most. The sooner you accept that people act in their own self-interest, the sooner you stop setting yourself up for disappointment. Think about your own experiences. How many times have you relied on someone's word only to find that when things got difficult, they disappeared? Maybe it was a friend who was always around during the good times, but when you were in crisis, they were nowhere to be found. Maybe it was a colleague who laughed with you, shared lunch breaks, even promised to back you up, but when the pressure came down, they saved themselves and left you hanging. Or maybe it was a partner who swore that love was eternal only to walk away when it no longer served them. These experiences feel like betrayal, but in reality, they are simply examples of people choosing what's best for them in that moment. And it's not always malicious. Sometimes it's not about betrayal in the dramatic sense. Sometimes people just don't have the capacity to give what you expect. They may have their own struggles, their own insecurities, their own survival needs. When you expect them to put you first, you are assuming that your importance in their life outweighs everything else they're dealing with. That assumption creates a trap. You end up hurt because you believed a story in your head instead of seeing the reality right in front of you. Human beings are wired for survival. From the beginning of time, survival has been the core instinct that drives decision making. Loyalty sounds beautiful, but when someone's security, comfort, reputation, or sense of well-being is on the line, that instinct overrides loyalty. When faced with a choice between protecting you and protecting themselves, most people will choose themselves. It's not because they hate you. It's because that's how people are built. The problem begins when you expect loyalty as if it is a guarantee. You think that because you've been loyal, others must be loyal in return. You think that because you've sacrificed, they must sacrifice too. You think that because you'd never leave, they should never leave either. But expectations like that only set you up for pain. Loyalty is not a transaction where you deposit and then withdraw an equal amount. It's not a contract sealed by mutual promises. It is conditional, fragile, and situational. People will give it only as long as it aligns with their self-interest. Let's go deeper. When you stop expecting loyalty, you shift your perspective on relationships entirely. You begin to see people for who they are instead of who you wish they were. You notice patterns. You recognize that some friends are there only for fun. Some colleagues are allies only when things are easy. And some partners are committed only until it becomes inconvenient. This clarity doesn't make you cynical. It makes you realistic. And realism is power. Because when you understand that people act out of self-interest, you stop depending on them for your sense of stability. Here's another way to look at it. If you expect people to always be loyal, you are putting your emotional well-being in their hands. You're giving them the power to disappoint you. But when you accept that loyalty is not guaranteed, you take that power back. You stop waiting for people to live up to your script. Instead, you build your life on what you can control, your actions, your choices, your loyalty to yourself. This doesn't mean you push everyone away. It doesn't mean you stop trusting or loving people. It means you enter relationships with open eyes. You appreciate loyalty when it's there, but you don't depend on it. You see it as a gift, not a right. When people show up for you, you value it deeply. But if they don't, you're not destroyed because you never built your foundation on the assumption that they would. Many people suffer because they confuse temporary loyalty with permanent commitment. A friend might be loyal to you in school, but not in adulthood. A colleague might support you in one project, but not when promotions are on the line. A partner might be loyal during the easy years, but not when life tests them. These shifts don't mean that what you shared was fake. It means that loyalty is situational. People align with you when it fits their journey, and when it doesn't, they move on. By understanding that people act out of self-interest, you also begin to see your own patterns more clearly. How many times have you chosen yourself over someone else? Maybe you didn't show up for a friend because you were exhausted. Maybe you didn't support a colleague because you were focused on your own survival. Maybe you walked away from someone because it no longer felt right. When you look at your own life honestly, you'll see that self-interest drives you too. This doesn't make you bad, and it doesn't make others bad. It makes everyone human. When you internalize this truth, your relationships become healthier. You stop demanding guarantees that people cannot give. You stop trying to control behavior that is outside your control. You stop making loyalty a condition for your happiness. Instead, you focus on authenticity, who shows up, who doesn't, and what that reveals. And instead of resenting people when they act in self-interest, you simply adjust. You learn not to take it personally because it isn't personal. It's just human nature. True strength comes from standing alone. Most people fear solitude. They equate being alone with being weak, unwanted, or incomplete. They chase after groups, friendships, and relationships as if being surrounded by others is the ultimate proof of their worth. But the reality is, relying on others to feel strong is the most fragile form of strength. The moment those people disappear, your strength disappears with them. That's not strength, that's dependence. Real strength, the kind that cannot be taken away, is built when you learn to stand on your own, when you no longer need others to validate your worth, and when your identity isn't tied to who chooses to stay or leave. Standing alone doesn't mean you isolate yourself or reject human connection. It means you no longer depend on it for survival. It means you can face life's challenges without collapsing because someone didn't show up for you. It means you can make decisions without needing approval or applause. It means you can carry yourself forward when everyone else stands still. This ability doesn't come naturally. It's built through pain, disappointment, and the realization that no one else is responsible for your life but you. Think about all the times you waited for someone to back you up only to be left standing by yourself. Maybe you were in a conflict and thought a friend would defend you. Maybe you faced a major life choice and hoped someone would guide you. Maybe you were struggling and expected someone to reach out. In those moments when no one showed up, you discovered something about yourself. At first it felt like abandonment, but later you realized it was a test, a moment where life was asking you to see what you were made of. When you had no one to lean on, you were forced to find your own legs. And if you're honest, those are the moments that shaped you the most. True strength is forged in silence, in solitude, in the absence of applause. It's built in those nights where no one texts, no one calls, and no one checks in, yet you keep moving. It's built when you face your failures alone, when you accept your fears without covering them up with noise, and when you push forward without anyone clapping for you. People often think strength comes from crowds, from having endless support, from being surrounded by love. That kind of strength is easy. It's borrowed strength. The harder, purer, unshakable kind comes when you realize you can walk through the fire by yourself and still come out standing. Most people avoid solitude because it forces them to confront the truth. When you're alone, there are no distractions, no excuses, no one else to blame. You're left with your own thoughts, your own fears, your own flaws. And many can't handle that mirror. They'd rather drown it out with constant company, even if that company is shallow, draining, or fake. But those who embrace solitude gain something priceless: self-knowledge. They learn who they really are when no one is watching. They learn to hear their own voice clearly without it being drowned out by the opinions of others. They learn to trust themselves. Standing alone also strips away illusions. When you can stand by yourself, you're no longer trapped by the fear of losing people. You no longer cling to toxic relationships out of desperation. You no longer keep fake friends just to feel less lonely. You no longer accept less than you deserve because you're afraid of being alone. Instead, you raise your standards. You begin to see relationships as additions, not necessities. You connect with people because you want to, not because you need to. And that shift changes everything. There's also a discipline in standing alone. It forces you to take full responsibility for your life. When there's no one else to carry you, you either collapse or you rise. You either let circumstances define you or you define yourself. You can't blame anyone else. You can't pass the weight, and you hide behind someone's shield. You face the reality that every choice you make has consequences, and you learn to live with those consequences. This discipline builds resilience. It gives you an edge because once you've proven to yourself that you can survive on your own, there's nothing left to fear. Look at the people who inspire you most, the ones who broke barriers, the ones who defied odds, the ones who created change. At some point, every single one of them had to stand alone. They had to believe in themselves when no one else did. They had to keep going when everyone told them to quit. They had to trust their vision even when others laughed. Their strength didn't come from being surrounded by loyal supporters. It came from being able to walk forward in complete isolation. That's why their strength is respected. That's why it endures. The paradox is this: once you learn to stand alone, you no longer fear being alone. And ironically, that makes people respect you more. Those who don't need constant validation are magnetic. People trust them because they're not desperate. They follow them because they radiate independence. But here's the key. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to be strong on your own if deep down you're terrified of losing others. The real power comes only when you've faced solitude, embraced it, and mastered it. Standing alone is not about arrogance. It's not about rejecting help or claiming you need no one. It's about choice. It's about knowing that if everyone walked away tomorrow, you would still be standing. It's about cultivating a kind of inner stability that doesn't break when external stability is gone. It's about having the courage to face yourself fully without distraction and to walk through life with the unshakable knowledge that your foundation cannot be taken away. The only loyalty you can control is loyalty to yourself. People spend their whole lives chasing loyalty from others, begging for it, demanding it, expecting it as if it's a birthright. They give and give, hoping that if they sacrifice enough, others will return the same. But the truth is, loyalty from others is never in your hands. It is conditional, fragile, and fleeting. People's loyalty shifts with their circumstances, their needs, their fears, their ambitions. You cannot control who stays, who leaves, who betrays, or who stands by you. What you can control, what you always control, is whether you remain loyal to yourself. And that is where real strength and freedom are found. Being loyal to yourself means refusing to abandon your own values just to please others. Too often, people betray themselves in exchange for acceptance. They bite their tongue when they should speak. They stay silent in the face of disrespect. They say yes when they desperately want to say no. They reshape themselves, mold themselves, and shrink themselves to fit into spaces where they don't belong, all in the hope that loyalty from others will reward them. But every time you do that, you chip away at your own self-respect. And when self-respect is gone, no amount of loyalty from anyone else can save you. Loyalty to yourself also means standing by your own growth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. When you start improving yourself, when you raise your standards, when you demand better, people will often resist. They'll accuse you of changing. They'll say you've become selfish, arrogant, or difficult. Why? Because your growth challenges their comfort. It forces them to confront their own stagnation, and many would rather drag you back down than rise with you. In those moments, you face a choice: stay loyal to them and betray yourself, or stay loyal to yourself and risk losing them. True loyalty means choosing yourself every time. There's also a discipline in this kind of loyalty. It's not about doing what feels good in the moment. It's about doing what's right for your future. Being loyal to yourself means not abandoning your goals when things get hard. It means keeping the promises you make to yourself even when no one is watching. It means showing up for your own dreams with the same energy you once wasted showing up for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Most people keep promises to others, but break promises to themselves. They'll show up for a friend's birthday, but they won't show up for their own morning routine. They'll sacrifice sleep to help someone else. but they won't sacrifice comfort to work on their own vision. That is not loyalty, it's self-abandonment. And it's why so many feel empty, even when surrounded by others. When you learn to be loyal to yourself, you also learn the power of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are lines drawn out of respect for your own well-being. Without them, you will always give too much and receive too little. People will take as much as you allow, and if you don't stand guard for yourself, no one else will. Loyalty to yourself means saying no when something violates your peace. It means walking away when something disrespects your worth. It means refusing to stay in spaces where you are only valued for your silence, your compliance, or your usefulness. That kind of loyalty is not easy. It costs relationships, opportunities, and comfort. But what you gain is priceless: your integrity, your self-respect, your clarity. This form of loyalty also reshapes how you see the world. When you stop expecting others to stay and instead focus on staying true to yourself, disappointment loses its sting. If someone betrays you, you may feel pain, but you don't crumble because your foundation is intact. If someone walks away, you don't beg them to stay because you never abandoned yourself in the first place. If someone chooses themselves over you, you respect it because you've learned to choose yourself too. And suddenly, life becomes less about controlling others and more about mastering yourself. It's also important to see that loyalty to yourself is not selfishness. Selfishness is about taking from others at their expense. Loyalty to yourself is about not abandoning who you are in order to keep others comfortable. It's about protecting your inner compass, even when the world tries to twist it. And ironically, the more loyal you are to yourself, the more you attract genuine relationships. People who value authenticity are drawn to those who stand by themselves. People who are whole are attracted to those who don't seek validation at any cost. By being loyal to yourself, you repel those who only want to use you and attract those who respect you. History is filled with examples of people who stood alone because they were loyal to themselves. They were mocked, criticized, abandoned, but they refused to bend. Over time, those same people became the ones others admired. Not because they were liked by everyone, not because they were surrounded by endless supporters, but because they never betrayed themselves. That kind of loyalty commands respect far more than trying to please the world ever could. Every betrayal you've ever experienced, every disappointment, every loss of trust has been pointing you to this truth, that the only constant loyalty you can rely on is your own. Others will come and go. Their commitment will rise and fall. Their promises will be broken or kept depending on their needs. But your loyalty to yourself is the anchor that keeps you from drifting. It's the one thing that cannot be taken away unless you give it away.